All right, just going to bring the meeting to order. Can please everyone rise to salute the flag? All who are able. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So good evening and welcome to the January meeting of the Revere Board of Health. My name is Dr. Drew Bunker and I am the chair of the Board of Health. Joining me for tonight's meeting are board members Craig Costanza and Neza Luadi. Also in attendance for tonight's meeting are City of Revere staff, Lauren Buck, who's the Director of Public Health, Michael Wells, who's the Director of Municipal Inspections and Health Agent, and Paula Sepulveda, who's the Board of Health Clerk. And we'll be expecting Bonnie Carroll, who's with the Six City Tobacco Initiative. She's the director over there. So tonight's agenda, I'm just going to speak with the other board members. So we're going to review and approve the minutes from December 22nd. Do you guys approve of those minutes?
I approve the minutes.
I approve the minutes.
Great, I do as well. Thank you. Next is going to be the Public Health Communicable Monthly Report with Lauren Buck.
Thank you, Dr. Bunker. For the communicable report for this month, as you can see, our influenza cases are quite high. We had 164 confirmed cases over the last month and 3 suspect. The age ranges are very similar to last month. Influenza affects a very large swath of the population. Our youngest case was about a month. Our oldest case was about 88 years old. Again, this is to be expected. We're in flu season right now. We will continue to see high numbers probably for the next couple of months. Just a reminder that there are flu shots in almost every grocery store, pharmacy, and it's really important to continue to get vaccinated for the flu and to continue to do so through these winter months. And so then I'll move on to the COVID report. So as of January 20th, our total confirmed and probable cases were 26,862. Our daily average case rate was 7.9. Our 14-day positivity rate was 13.6. And our total deceased from the beginning of the pandemic was 196. I'll just make a quick note. Our positivity rate has gone down since since 13.6, this was about a month ago that I put about a week ago that I put the report together. 13.6 is a very, very high positivity rate, and that kind of is reflective of what the nation and the state is seeing, that COVID, did spike a little bit over the holidays and in the winter months. We're probably going to be seeing this as a trend very similar to flu over the next couple of years. Most people are taking home tests, and so the positivity rate can be a little hard to interpret at this point. But anecdotally, and kind of what we're seeing in wastewater as well, just shows that the positivity rate over the last month has been quite high. And so we'll keep an eye on it over the next couple of months. We still continue to have weekly COVID vaccine clinics. They run every Tuesday night from 3 to 6:30 at 50 Walnut Ave. It's open to anyone. There's a $75 gift card that's associated with anyone who comes in. Doesn't matter where you're from. You can live in Revere or from, a different city. And we will continue those through the next couple of months. And we also continue to give out at-home COVID test kits in the basement of this building at City Hall in the 311 office. Anyone can come pick them up. Any Revere resident can come and get free COVID test kits, and we will continue that until supplies run out, which we hope we'll be able to continue for quite a while. Moving on to our COVID vaccination update as of January 20th. The percent of the Revere population that has had the first dose is 91.5%. It's slightly lower than the state average at 93.1%. And the percent of the eligible population that's gotten a booster is 55.1%. Just a quick update from other news from the CDC. As of January 11th, 2023, the CDC and the government of Uganda marked the end of the Ebola outbreak. 42 days have passed since the last case of Ebola, the last case of Ebola was reported, marking the end of the outbreak. Entry, screening, and public health monitoring of travelers to the United States who had been in Uganda in the prior 21 days was lifted effective January 11th. And also just a note, as of December 28th, the CDC now is requiring a negative COVID test or documentation of recovery from air passengers entering the US from China. So that's just some updates from the nation, the CDC. And that's it.
Great, thank you, Lauren. So next is going to be the Inspectional Services Monthly Report. That's from Michael Wells.
Thank you, Dr. Bunker. For the month of January, on the Interior Housing Division, we performed 55 certificates of fitness, which is rental habitability of a unit. We performed 2 re-inspections on certificates of fitness, and we responded to 10 interior complaints and 2 re-inspections on interior complaints. On the Food Inspection Division, we conducted 31 routine inspections, 11 re-inspections, 1 complaint inspection, 2 pre-opening inspections. And on the Sanitation Division of Exterior, we, on accumulation of litter, trash, garbage, and debris, we issued 26 violations, 1 violation for commercial vehicles in residential neighborhoods, 16 violations for improper bulky or bulky items, 179 violations of improper placement of garbage and trash, 3 violations of improper signage on public property, 3 violations of improper storage of garbage, 6 violations under the junk heap, dumps, and automobile graveyard ordinance, 4 violations for multiple unregistered vehicles, and 3 violations for unclean, unsanitary land, 1 violation for unsafe structure, 7 violations into the ordinance of snow, ice, sump pump violations, and 2 violations were issued for working without a permit. I will comment with the violations for the month of December into January. We did have a week from in between Christmas and New Year's where violations were not issued. And that concludes the municipal inspections report.
Great, thank you, Michael. So next is going to be the licensing renewals of body art license, and Lauren, I'll have you take that.
Thanks. So just for the board's refresher, again, the body art establishments that we have in Revere are almost exclusively microblading salons. They have to be licensed and the new renewal and inspected every year. If you remember this summer, we were getting back on track after COVID, so we did this 6 months ago, but now we're getting them on a January schedule to have the renewal every year in January. So the licenses that I put before you have all been inspected by the Public Health Department. And if you also remember correctly, every practitioner needs 2 licenses. So you'll be voting on an individual practitioner license and also an establishment license for each of the inspections that we did. So I'm going to get started. So the first applicant is Janet Izquierdo. She had her inspection on December 28th, 2022. She passed her inspection for her individual practitioner application, and the Public Health Department and Inspectional Department recommend the board approve her individual practitioner license. And if you can just vote on that one, then I'll move to the next.
Yes, I'm going to approve the license.
I do approve as well.
I approve.
Okay. We're going to go one by one here. So the next is her establishment, and this is for Janet Aesthetics. It's on Broadway. Her inspection date was 12/28. She passed her inspection, and the Public Health and Inspectional Department recommend that you approve her establishment license.
I'm going to approve the license as well.
I approve the license.
And I approve.
Great. Next up, we have Blanca Soto Lenis. Her inspection was January 10th, 2023. She passed her inspection. The Public Health and Inspectional Department recommend that you approve the license for her individual practitioner.
I'm going to approve that as well.
I approve as well.
Approve.
Great. Next up is the establishment license, and her establishment is called Lakshmi Beauty. It's on Shirley Ave. The inspection date was January 10th, 2023. She passed her inspection, and the Public Health and Inspectional Department recommend that you approve her license.
I approve.
I approve as well.
I approve.
Great. Next up, Katya. Katia Elisabo. Her inspection was January 25th, 2022. She passed her inspection, and the Public Health and Inspectional Department recommend that you approve her individual practitioner license.
Yes, I approve.
I approve.
I approve.
Great. Next up is her establishment application. She's on Hutchinson Street, Katia Micropigmentation. Her inspection was December 28th, 2022. She passed her inspection, and the Public Health and Inspectional Department recommend that you approve her license.
I approve.
I approve her license.
I approve.
And so I just want to apologize. Her inspection was actually January 25th, 2023. Sorry about that. Okay, great. Next up is Tao Nguyen. Her individual practitioner and the application for her individual practitioner license. We inspected on January 23rd, 2022. She passed her inspection, and the Public Health and Inspectional Department recommend that you approve her license.
I approve.
I approve.
I approve.
Great. Her establishment is called the Brow Chemist. We did her inspection on January 23rd, 2023. She passed her inspection. Her establishment is also on Broadway, and the Public Health and Inspectional Department recommend that you approve her license.
I approve.
I approve.
I approve.
Great. Two more. Next up, we have Babe and Beau Salon. This is on Broadway. There are two practitioners who practice out of that facility. Shelley Vu. Her inspection date was January 18th, 2023. She passed her individual practitioner inspection, and the Public Health and Inspectional Department recommend that you approve her license.
I approve.
I approve.
I approve.
Great. Next up is the individual practitioner under Babe and Beau Salon. Again, this is Fang Luong. Her inspection date was January 18th. She passed her inspection, and the Public Health and Inspectional Department recommend that you approve her license.
Approve.
I approve.
I approve.
Great. And the final application for that place was Babe and Beau. Again, this is a Broadway, the establishment permit. They were inspected on January 18th. They passed their inspection, and the Public Health and Inspectional Department recommend you approve their license.
I approve.
I approve as well.
I approve.
Great. Last one. Maria Jimenez, her individual practitioner application, her inspection date was January 17th, 2023. She passed her inspection. The Public Health and Inspectional Department recommend you approve her license.
I approve.
I approve.
I approve.
Great. And finally, her establishment, Brows by Camilla. This is on Revere Street. Her inspection was January 17th, 2023. She passed her inspection, and the Public Health and Inspectional Department recommend you approve her license.
I approve.
I approve.
I approve.
Great. I'll pass down all of the paperwork for you to sign after the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great, thanks so much. All right, so the last part of the meeting today is going to be in regards to the violations in regards to the tobacco product sales. We do have Bonnie here from the Six City Tobacco Initiative. So Bonnie, just a little bit about the Six City Tobacco Initiative, and Bonnie, if you want to come up and speak with it, but essentially it's organization that's funded by the Department of Public Health and for the cities of Cambridge, Chelsea, Everett, Revere, Somerville, and Winthrop to ensure that the tobacco laws are followed for the communities. If you want to go ahead and say some more.
Yes, that part of the position is to make sure to educate people, particularly retailers, about the laws around tobacco and what is allowed to be sold and not, and what kind of rules have to be followed, for example, to not sell to any young people under the age of 21. So I'm not sure if we have any people here who are appealing tonight, but there were several cease and desist orders given out recently for sales to people under 21. So if they're here, I have evidence to show that they did make the sale, and that's why they were issued a cease and desist.
Okay, great, thank you. Yeah, they are here. We're going to give them a second to come up and appeal, or if they want to say what they need to say. But just to be clear, the laws in regards to tobacco regulations were put in place by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and then it was last year that they were adopted by the city of Revere. The new laws were adopted into our city last year, and essentially we're just following the laws that are put in place by the state of Massachusetts. But the punishments from the laws are essentially were decisions that we made and followed the other municipalities in the state of Massachusetts, and we were given guidelines about the punishments in terms of the amount of fine, the amount of days that the state of Massachusetts recommended, and we followed a lot of what other cities in Massachusetts were doing. And we do have support from the state of Massachusetts on those penalties that we decided on legally. We have backing. But essentially, I'll just go through it. So for the first violation of the businesses, if they violate the tobacco law, the tobacco sales laws that are in place, is a fine of $1,000 on the first violation, and then the tobacco product sales will be suspended for 3 consecutive business days. If it's a second violation within the 36-month date of the current violation, a fine of $2,000 will be issued, and then a suspension of 7 consecutive days. Businesses do have the right to appeal. In the state like Massachusetts, it's accepted principle of law that a local regulation or ordinance can be stricter than the state law, but not less strict. So we essentially just followed the recommendation of the state. And we're happy to have people come up and appeal. I'm going to call each of the businesses one by one if they have anything they want to say in terms of their appeal of what may have happened. What I'll do is I'll start with Geo Liquors, which the date of the compliance check was on December 10th. And this was a violation. This was their first violation.
Okay, it stays on, right? All right, good evening. My name is Cosmo Carololis. I'm an attorney with offices down in 14 Proctor Ave. I'm here tonight with my client, Yusuf Abur Jali. He's the owner, manager, and operator of Geo's Liquors down here on Broadway. Geo's has been doing business on Broadway for over 4 years now. The nature of its business is selling age-restricted products, such as tobacco and alcohol, to the general public. On the morning of December 10th, the city conducted a compliance check at Geo's. An employee at Geo's failed to check the identification of a customer, and that customer purchased and was sold cigarettes, a pack of cigarettes, Marlboro Reds, I believe they were. The employee was approximately 50 years old and was recently hired by Geo's. Prior to hiring the employee, Geo's checked background, prior employment history, and learned that this employee, former employee now, had been employed by Blanchard's for the last 5 years. So there weren't any red flags, any cause for concern. He did his due diligence. My client, as I just said, had no reason to believe that the employee would have acted contrary to her previous 5 years of extensive experience selling liquor, nor to the compliance training that she had just received as a new employee with Geo's. In all its years of doing business, Geo's has never not once incurred a violation either on the liquor front or the tobacco front. To that, my client understands the severity of such violation and the responsibility that he owes to the general public, being a vendor of both tobacco and alcohol products. Geo's immediately terminated the employee for failing to check the identification of the customer. And since Geo's has implemented new policies, procedures, and a whole schedule of compliance training that it's going to now run through all its new employees, regardless of whether they're hired tomorrow or they were hired last week. I have copies as I go through just the highlights of the policies and procedures. If you could. There's 3 each, I just expected, you know. So as this big stack of policies and procedures gets passed around, employees will be given a copy of that exact manual, and they'll be required to read and understand them, everything in it entirely. Following their reading and understanding of the manual, they are going to certify in writing that they have received, read, and fully understand and will comply with the manual. You have copies of those certifications at the back. USEF is going to conduct a periodic review every 6 months of all of these new compliance measures to ensure that, A, does he have all of these certifications signed and on file? Are they expired? Do they need to be renewed? Are any employees not doing the compliance training as they should, et cetera, et cetera? USEF will also conduct internal compliance checks, internal meaning by GOs and only GOs, including running role-playing exercises, possibly with, undercover employees, trying to simulate a situation in which someone would pass an ID, whether no ID, a fake ID, et cetera. And USEF is also going to periodically review surveillance footage. Just in the event that somebody slips by and, hey, forgets to scan an ID, he's going to know about it. In addition to all of these internal measures, GEOS has also implemented a new software system called Empower that won't process any transactions for age-restricted products unless there is a valid photo identification that's scanned. Now, the only way around this is for the employee to manually punch in a date and click, override. That is no longer the case. So Yusuf and I were talking generally about people that come in. A lot of people complain, oh, yeah, I forgot it. I was at the gym. I don't have my ID. What are you, racist? What is it, me? Stuff like that. And he's like, what am I supposed to say to these people? And I tell him over and over again, and this is what he's going to say. The computer won't let us do it. Sorry. It has nothing to do with you, your circumstance. You need an ID or we're not going to process the transaction. That would be the strict adherence to the zero tolerance photo ID policy. No purchase without producing valid photo ID at the point of purchase. In addition, he's got the signs as mandated by the Massachusetts Department of Public Health all over the store in front of the cash register with the most volume. On the whole, he texts his workers every day that he's not there. Make sure you check IDs, probably more than his, family. The point I'm trying to make is this is someone who takes this very seriously. This is the first transgression in over 4 years of operating. And at what point does it become human error, So he's gonna, obviously he's taken steps to ensure that that employee never works again at GEOs, but also put in place prophylactic measures, if you will, that'll try to curb even that 1% chance of human error at the register, or just lapse of judgment, whatever it may be. But it's not going to be his.
No, sorry, keep going.
So in finishing, in consideration of the recurring compliance training and education that GEOS is going to provide to each of its employees, the cost attendant to all of that, Yusuf and I, we humbly would ask that the board remit the imposed fine of $1,000. That's it.
No, thank you for speaking, and I can probably speak for the other board members. Yusuf, what you have put in place in your business is exactly what we'd hope came out of this. And you're doing exactly what your model of business is how, honestly, the state, and it's pretty impressive what we're doing, and the paperwork that I can see here, it's very impressive. As it's been challenging. This is not the first year that we've had to give these fines to businesses. Last year was not a good experience. We had first-time offenders, people who were very upset, people who been in business for over 30 years, had never had a violation. So we understand this is not to be taken lightly. unfortunately, based on the law, last time, we actually had lawyers from the state of Massachusetts here. This year, they're not here, but essentially, if we don't kind of go along with this, the city is actually, we can get in trouble from a legal perspective, is what I was told last time, and Bonnie can clarify that. But from my understanding, I think all this information is very helpful because, if something in the future does happen, I do hear you on this human error aspect of it, because he's doing everything he's put in place right here is, it's anything anyone could ever do. I think, unfortunately, based on this first violation, I'm going to speak for myself and the other board members. I think we're going to have to go ahead with the fine, and believe me, I don't feel good about it. I understand, you're in no way does this one employee affect reflect you as a person. This is not a personal attack on you. You're a very caring person. I know that, and you care, and I completely understand that, but I think from my perspective, we do have to follow the law. But I think based on what you're doing now, it does make me think about if ever a future offense were to happen, how much of this is, this is everything. There's nothing else you can do. At one point, the person could, employee could purposely do something.
Can I just add something real quick? So in our discussion of the whole system and how it all works, and how there's technological safeguards and preventions to all these things, Yusuf mentioned to me that, hey, in the state of Massachusetts, they're not required to have those types of systems. You're just required to check ID. He suggested that, and if it starts at the city of Revere, Revere passes an ordinance requiring all tobacco and liquor vendors or licensees to have some kind of software system in place that actually validates the ID. And that cuts out people coming in from, Wyoming with all sorts of fake IDs or permits and this and that. And then really the only two options is either they didn't scan it or they forcefully, deliberately overrided it, in which case that's not negligence on his part.
No, absolutely. I think that's something, Lauren is in the chair of the Public Health Department. I'm the chair of the Board of Health. I think that's something that we should, talk about. If we're really going to enforce these laws, as we say we are, that's the best safeguard is some system, electronic system that we actually know is, universal, and we're not just going off of, oh yeah, I checked the ID. No, definitely. I definitely appreciate you coming up here and speaking with us. I think this was just helpful for everyone listening. Yes, yeah. Please.
My name is Yusuf Aburjali. The idea I have about checking everyone's ID because it makes our business a lot easier. Also, as far for the employee, tell them, this is a city audience, checking everyone's ID for tobacco and liquor, because we lose a lot of customer. They come in and says, I'm 50 years old, 60 years old. Why do you check my ID? I put a big post on both doors. When the customer comes in, we check everyone's ID. But still, it's a problem. They fired us. They called the police 2 Fridays ago. You can go back and check because we checked someone's ID. So the cop came in. It's become, it makes it a lot easier for the business, the tobacco, liquor. If, this is the law, we need to check an ID, everybody will understand. Also, we'll not lose the business to go to somewhere else, because we did lose a lot of business by checking every single person ID. And some customer come in like 1 time a day, 2 times a day, I just was here. Well, and for me to put a rule for one employee and say, hey, this guy looks 50 or this guy looks 40, or, I have to enforce for everyone to make sure they check an ID. I can't tell, hey, this guy's 30, he could be 20, he could be 19. So it makes it a lot harder for us in the business to do that. So that's why I put the rule. I look at the big chain, Costco, I look at Total Wine, they check even 100 years old, an ID. So I said, you know what, why don't we do this? And I can see my business a little bit tip because of that issue. But I just wanted to say that if that's something, the city will bring up, or, that would be great, because it's going to help me as a business owner. And one tell me, hey, the guy down the street doesn't check my ID, and I lose that customer. So that's the issue we have. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I agree with that completely. I think if we're going to make this Bonnie, and I think, Bonnie, you agree as well, if we're going to make this, go ahead.
You raise really good points, and I brought tonight some signs for people to put in their businesses because, and some posters about how to check IDs, and also a new training that the state has put in effect for people who have employees, so that, and I'll give one of these to you before you leave, but actually the law now does say that everyone has to be asked for an ID for cigarettes, and even the lawyers who worked with us when these laws were first coming into effect said that he wants us to be telling retailers, and I do this whenever I visit, that we want to call it the Fenway rule. It's just like at Fenway Park, when you go to get alcohol, they don't care what age you are or what you look like, you are asked for an ID. And if you get a beer and you go sit down, you come up a second later, you get asked for an ID again, because they just never hand alcohol without an ID switch. So it's supposed to be the same thing now with tobacco too. That's what the new law said. Everyone has to be ID.
What about the scanning?
That's wonderful. I think the reason that some people don't do it is because, I'm sure you know now, the machines are extremely expensive, but they're
Yeah.
a great idea.
The only thing I
Great
worry,
idea.
yeah,
Like you see on the document we sent, there's a box, it tells you either scan an ID, that box right there, or you can manually enter the birth date on that box, the first paper you have there. So the system, actually, every transaction, when it finishes, that box, it pops up to actually type in the birth date or scan an ID. So we have a great system. We just need to, make the customers work with us, because literally the first week, we had a lot of issues by forcing every single person to come in with an ID. And literally, I was standing there. I spend a lot of times in the store. I spend 65, 70 hours a week in the store. I did not build a $2 million business to sell for underage. That's not my intentions to do. So it can happen. It's not like I'm happy, hey, selling for under. That's not the type of business I'm looking for. So I just wish we can make some signs, City of Revere, or, on the windows, ID required, alcohol, force it. It makes it easier for us as a business owner.
Yep, Michael?
Thank you, Dr. Bunker. As the former food inspector, now the director of municipal inspections, I've spent a lot of time out in the field, not so much recently, but as the food inspector, out in the field conducting inspections, and, every business is different. A lot of businesses we go in, sometimes there's no owner or person in charge to be found. Sometimes you go in and the owner is there quite often. When there is an absentee owner, and I know Yusuf is not an absentee owner, because Geo's is the newest, the newest building. He moved from one location to another, but recently opened within the past year, and we did a lot of inspections there, and Yusuf did a great job, from permitting to opening. But with that being said, your employees can certainly, to an absentee owner, your employees can bury you, However, the laws are the laws. When we give a $25 trash ticket, it's hopefully you learned your lesson and that you're not getting one week after week after week. Do we have those residents that get a trash ticket week after week after week? Absolutely. They don't learn their lesson. So hopefully, these first-time offenders that we have here tonight, the law is the law. And we have to abide by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and what the city of Revere has adopted, unfortunately. And it's steep. And I think they made them this steep so they learn from their first offense of $1,000 and a 3-day suspension. Do we have businesses that are coming up on their second offense of a $2,000 fine and a 7-day suspension? We do. They'll be here in February. So hopefully, I absolutely appreciate Gio's passion, and Yusuf, he runs a great business. As, when you're a business owner, you don't wake up in the morning to set out to do the wrong thing. That's your livelihood, right? So it's important that you're running a good business, and that's your paycheck at the end of the week. And like I said, your employee can bury you if you're not there. And we see a lot of that, where there's no owners to be found. Ownership has to get back into their businesses and take responsibility and stop blaming the employee, because ultimately you're the pitcher, right? You're the pitcher of your business. That's your life savings that you've put into that place. Your hard work, sweat, and tears, and your life savings that you've put into your business. And you don't want to see it go south. You don't want to see a sign on your door because you have a suspension of a tobacco license. We don't want to see that either. But we need to make sure that everybody's in compliance. And especially, I think the only thing you can buy in any of your liquor stores is maybe a lemon or a lime that you don't need an ID for, right? So, anything that you're selling, it makes us think a little bit, and without accusation, but, is liquor being sold to underage as well? Bonnie only does compliance checks on tobacco, but is the ABC going around and doing compliance checks on selling a six-pack? We don't know. But, I think it's important to take a good look, and, unfortunately, you're going to have to accept what is here. But with that being said, hopefully we don't see anybody back here again, because it's just going to get worse. And once you get to that second violation, third strike, we know what third strike is, right? So you might never have a tobacco license if you get to a third strike, because it's going to be revoked. So my advice is to ensure compliance every day. You have to be in your stores, educating your employees. Unfortunately, that employee might not be there in 6 months, especially in today's day. They don't stick around long, so it's a constant turnover issue. Working with the employees, you can put all the signage you want in the world. They don't read it, right? They don't read it. It hits them in the faces. They're walking in the door. Doesn't matter. Just because the sign's there, it doesn't matter. We see it firsthand in our office, So I know you guys are definitely in a tough situation. Training, and I think, you set the example with your employee, and hopefully, we don't have number two for anybody in the future.
I made it maybe a little bit easier by posting the hearing right on my wall. So customer comes in, hey, why you need my ID? Sorry, we got a $1,000 violation. Plus, we have a hearing to go to right away. That the things change right away. They'll know, because they'll sit down and argue with you for probably 5 minutes, end up fighting you or leaving or whatever. So I posted that right on the wall. So it made it a lot easier for me so customer, thanks.
And the truth be told, with the system that he now has in place, barring intentional malfeasance on the part of an employee, there is absolutely no way that we should ever be here again. And he has, a record of everyone that manually overrides, so it's pretty tight.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with that as well. Anything else? I think that's all we have for you guys. And unfortunately, I'm going to, uphold the suspension, but knowing that it's never going to happen again based on what I see here. Yeah, so thank you guys.
Thank you as well.
Bonnie, sorry.
I just wanted to say, you all know this, but the state law said that the suspensions had to be between 1 and 30 days. So it could have been as big as 30 days. Luckily, Revere only chose 3. So I just want to say that, because that's how serious the state feels like this is. So a 3-day suspension is horrible, but it could be a lot worse.
Great, thank you. So next, we're going to have Speedway. So this date of compliance check was on December 10th. Speedway at 630 Squire Road. Oh, okay. Are you a representative from Speedway? I am. Okay.
Good evening. I'm Cindy Lewis. I'm the district manager for the store that was shopped. I spoke with the employee. The employee admitted he didn't ask for ID, said he was busy. 5-year employee, so that's tough. We do have training when they're hired. We have yearly training. We have the button on the register that you can't override it. You have to ask for the ID. I called him up right after they left and gave him the card and told him, I'd be in to see him the next day. He didn't fight it. He said he knew he was supposed to. He knew the training. He was terminated, so.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I appreciate that,
No.
coming and talking. Yeah,
Okay.
okay, thanks. So, yeah, we'll vote, I guess at the end, we'll put the votes in. Okay, yep. Next is going to be Beachmont Liquors, 669 Winthrop Avenue. The date of compliance check was on December 18th. This is their first violation.
Hi, I'm Michael Gerson, owner, manager of Beachmont Liquors. Yep, sure. I think everything's been said here already, a lot of dialogue on this. Ray helps us 2 Sundays a month. Other than that, it's my brother and I work in those registers. We're family 99% of the time, except for 2 Sundays a month. And of all guys, he's probably the most diligent about carding people, so it was like human error. So I guess that's all we can really say in regards. Yeah.
No, it's, believe me, we understand these things can happen. And we obviously just want every step in the future to prevent it. I think, a first-time offense and something that is, something that should not be taken lightly. There's a fine and there's a suspension, but, it's something that I know that you'll work on, and it will, and I know we'll never see you again, for sure, so.
We're not gonna terminate them either.
Yeah, okay, yep. But thank you for speaking, yeah. All right, last is going to be, or no, sorry, Olympia Market is the other business. Anyone from there want to come up? No. And then State Road Liquors, 116 State Road. Both of their violations were on December 20th. Okay, so great. So I'll just vote to uphold I'll ask the other Board of Health members to uphold the 3-day suspension and the fine for the businesses Geo Liquors, Speedway, Beachmont Liquors, Olympia Market, and State Road Liquors. Can I get a vote from the board?
Yeah, I vote for all of them for the fine of $1,000 and 3-day suspensions.
Yes, and I approve as well.
Okay, I'm going to approve that as well, following the laws and regulations that are put in place through the state of Massachusetts. So, great. Oh, yes, and sorry, I guess we probably should have mentioned that while they were still in here, but Michael, do you mind just giving us the dates that the suspension will be?
Yes, dates of suspension will include February 6th, 7th, and 8th. That is a Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday.
And that is just tobacco sales for those days? Yeah, okay.
And I'll just make a note that all businesses will be notified via certified mail and hand-delivered letters. Can we say Monday the 30th?
By Monday or Tuesday.
Monday or Tuesday.
Great, thank you. All right, so that is going to conclude this Board of Health meeting, and thank you for your time.